Hello everyone. So this video is going to be very special because this time I have come up with a very unique idea to help all of you guys. So basically in this video what I will do is I will create a simple real time based scenario project which will make use of lightning web components, apex class as well as integration. So all these three combination makes a person a good developer basically and is very much required in the industry. So in this simple project, I will make you go through all these components that will help you get the hands-on experience and get to know how you can actually implement such scenarios, such solutions on your own. So first I will show you the functionality that I have created, and then I will make you go through each and every component that I have created. Moreover, if you would like to get the source code that I have created for to build this project, I will share that over email as well. I will mention my email ID in the description of this video where you can just ask for a source code and I will share that with you. But I would highly recommend first try to implement the solution or the project on your own by taking reference of my video, because here in the video itself you will get all the knowledge. Rather now later, if you want to just copy paste the code, then you can go ahead with that as well by copying the source code. So the scenario, I mean the project that I have created is a very simple one. Here, upon get giving the name of the city, it will show the results of the weather details of that city. So let me show you. It will accept one input, text input. Let's enter any city like Noida, and then once I click on this get weather details button, it will show me all the weather details like humidity, pressure, temperature, feels like all those. So let me click on that, and here it is. First the city name, then the temperature currently it is, and then what it feels like, then the humidity, pressure, minimum temperature and maximum temperature. Let's change the city now. Let's make it Hyderabad. Get weather details. Now see the temperature and every all those units have now changed. So this looks very simple when I am operating via UI, but let me tell you my friend, behind the scene there is lot of coding being done. There is lot of configurations that have been done. So I will make you go through all those configurations and customizations that I have made use of just to build this particular project. And it uses LWC integration apex class, which is the most required skill in the industry right now. Okay, so for you guys I have created one simple, what we say, presentation just to give you an overview what all have been done. So first of all, so there are some prerequisite before we start creating building the code or creating the LWC component. We have to do some configurations, like we have to do some tie up with the third party system like open weather, where we are getting these details from. This is not stored in Salesforce, let me tell you. This is all coming from external system. There is an external system which is returning this data. So let me go through the PPT. First and foremost step is to sign up in the weather open weather API. This is the third party tool from where we will get the weather details, real time weather details. So the first step would be to just go to this URL. I will mention all these URLs in the description, so don't worry about that. Okay, here I think I already have opened it. So here you have to sign up. I have already signed up, so I'm already logged it into this Open Weather API. Here only, if you just once you are signed up, and you will get an email to verify your email. And once you do the verification, you will receive an email like this: thank you for subscribing. And this is the most important thing that you will get a unique API key. You can use this API key in your Salesforce apex class to make the API calls to this external system. And they also will mention you this is the endpoint that you have to hit. And they will also give you one sample endpoint, like if you want to get the weather detail of London, then here this is how your endpoint should look like. Okay, most importantly, here in the endpoints, they have not mentioned the protocol, that is HTTP colon double slash, that makes the entire URL. So while you are configuring your API callout or anything like that, you have to append that HTTP colon double underscore, just at the starting of the URL. I will show you where all these changes needs to be done. So once you are done with the sign up, here if you want to just see your API key, not if you don't want to see your API key from the email but from the OpenWeather website directly, then just click on my keys, and here is your API key. You can just copy from here or from here, it's the same actually. Let's go back to the PPT now. Since you are done with it, once your email verification is done, you can get the API key, and you also get the endpoints where you want to hit the API request to get the details. Let's go to the second step. This is also one of the most important step, that you have to whitelist the open weather website, that is site. I mean the site from where you will be getting the details. You have to whitelist that in Salesforce. So what you have to do is, for this, in the remote site setting, if you go to the remote site setting in Salesforce setup, and here you have to create one record. Here you just have to mention the site name, whatever you want to, and this is the basically the site URL which needs to be whitelisted by mentioning it over here. This means that I can make call API callouts to this website from my Salesforce account. This is just whitelisting remote site setting. If you don't mention it over here, then you won't be able to make any API calls to this website. Okay, so this is the website, and let me tell you, this is not the endpoint URL. This is the website which we are whitelisting in order to make API calls. Okay, third step. Third step is create an Apex class to make API callout and return the weather details in a wrapper class. Now we will go to the Apex class. So we are building, we are done with the configuration. Now we are moving towards the coding, that is customization. So let's go to my Apex class. I have already created one. I will make you go through it. It's a very simple Apex class. You don't have to worry about it. So here is the Apex class, which is name is weather details class, and inside that there is an aura enabled method called get weather details. This method accepts the city name as a parameter, because based on the name of the city only we have to make an API call out and get the results of that city. Now what this Apex method or this method is returning, it's returning a wrapper class. So let me show you. Inside this class only I have created a wrapper class here, whether it is wrapper. Now why am I creating this wrapper class? Because the data that will be receiving from the external system will be haphazard. I mean it can contain anything, number, string, any kind of data for which we do not have any S object in our Salesforce org to store that. So what we'll do is we'll create a wrapper class over here only in the Apex class, store all the return details in the formatted in the correct format, and then return this wrapper directly to the lightning web component. So we are not making use of any Salesforce S object, rather we are creating our own wrapper class to store the return details. Okay, we'll come back to wrapper class once we are using it. So this is the method. Now the first thing is to create the endpoint URL from where you want to hit the API. Okay, so as you know, we have already received the API key. Just store that API key in one of the string variable here. This is nothing but that I showed you previously. It's in the email as well as from your this account also you can get the API key. Okay, now the endpoint should be, as I said, you have to append this HTTP colon double slash. In the remote site setting as well, I did the same, because in the email they have just mentioned this as the URL, because they know that any person knows what the protocol is. So this is nothing but a protocol. Now I what I did is, as in the email they said, okay, go back. This should be the endpoint, how it looks like. Openweathermap.org slash data slash 2.5 slash weather, then q equals to means query equals to name of the city, and then app id is nothing but the API key. So same way, in the same format, we have to create our own endpoint. So endpoint should start with this protocol, then the same api.openweather.org slash data slash 2.5 slash weather. So I hope this looks similar until this slash weather 2.5 then weather. Now we have to put our own query, that is we have to append this text, that is q equals to, it should be city name, whatever is coming from the screen, that we have to give here. Okay, then the next point is, this is something that I have added. We want to include and units equals to metric, so that whatever data is being returned is in the standard unit, like degree celsius should be the temperature, not the fahrenheit. So I just included this on my own, just to inform the API that return the data in the standard units, that is degree Celsius. Then we have to append the app ID. App ID is nothing but the API key that I've already stored here. Cool. I've just used a one debug statement just to see how my endpoint looks like. Okay. So this is how I have prepared the endpoint. This is just the preparation of endpoint. It should look like this: URL slash q equals to city name, whatever I insert, then and units equals to metric, and app id equals to API key. I will show you this debug statement as well, what my endpoint actually looks like. Now you have to make a call out. So this is how we will make use of the HTTP methods to actually make a call out. So this is the standard HTTP method that will be used to send the request. Okay, first, before sending the request, we have to first create the request. Okay, so this is another we can say object of HTTP request. So this is instance is created, then we will set the properties of this request, that is set endpoint. So endpoint is nothing but whatever we have prepared earlier. Okay, now which method you want to request? We want to request the get method because we want to fetch some details from the external system. Okay, then we will create the HTTP response objects instance, and then just send this request. Whatever response comes, store this in this particular instance. Okay, so this is nothing but, as I said, this is a standard HTTP object which is used to send the request, and request is nothing but this instance whatever we have created, and the response will be stored here in this variable. Now I'm also debugging here the result or the response that have been received, including the body of that result. So all the details like temperature, pressure, humidity will be contained inside this body, while the result will contain mostly the status code, status message, and in that we will have body. Okay, now the role of a wrapper class will come into play. We have to extract the all the details from the body. So first of all, we will create the object of this wrapper class, or we can say instance of this wrapper class. Here only, inside this only, we'll store all the details. First we will check whether the response that we have received has the status code as 200. This means it was a success API call out. If the response was 200, then only go inside this if condition. Now, as we know, the body that the response will contain will be in the form of JSON, and that will not be serialized properly. So what we do is, first we deserialize that body. So whatever response body is, we are deserializing it and storing it into a map of string comma object. So let me show you how the response actually looks like. It will be like this: the result will contain, or the response will contain status and status code, and inside that result we will have body, and that body contains all the details like name equals to Hyderabad or the city name. Then inside that body itself there will be another body called main, and inside that main is nothing but, we can say here, an object which contains all the details like humidity, temperature, feels like. So temperature should also have been there, I might have removed it. So you see, inside the body we have the name tag individually, and all other details like temperature, pressure are inside the main category. So let's see how we have deserialized it. So first I have deserialized the body to store that as a result here. Okay, and as I said, inside the body only we have the name tag, so we can directly fetch the name of the city like this: result dot get. So the key is name and the value is whatever here, whatever will be here. Okay, So I am storing the city name, and I am pushing that city name inside that wrapper class city property, this one. Okay, because I just got the city name directly inside the result tag. Now if I need to fetch the temperature, pressure and all, then I have to go through this main tag. Okay, so whatever is there in the result dot get main, so this will return all these details, like feels like will be the key and the value will be the value. So we have to just map it again in a separate map called main result. This will also contain the string comma object. Since it is coming from the third party, we are not sure what will be the valued data type, so we are storing it as object, and then we are typecasting it. Now inside the main result, as I said, we have temperature, we have pressure, we have humidity, so we are getting all of those details and storing inside that wrapper class properties. Okay, so you see there temp is the actually the temperature property. So you see inside the result we had body, inside the body we had name, and inside the body we have main, and inside main we have all these properties. So this is how we traverse. So inside the response we have body, inside the body we had name, and inside the body's main tag we have all these details, and we are typecasting it to the string dot value of, because we are just typecasting it into a string form, because we don't know in which data type the third party is actually sending us the data. Okay, so this is how I have prepared the wrapper class. It looks good. I have assigned all the values, and then simply I am returning this entire instance of that wrapper class. That is why the return type of this method is exactly the name of the wrapper class, this because that is what we are actually returning. Cool. So this is how the Apex class is built. Looks very simple only, nothing complex. Create a wrapper class, call the API, get deserialize the body, store the values into the wrapper class, and then return the wrapper class. Okay, so this is how our third slide come into end. Now the fourth slide, the most important and the last activity. We have to create an LWC component to accept the city name and show its weather details. So this is nothing but that screen which I was previously showing you. This is the LWC component which accepts the name of the city and shows us all these details. So now I will make you go through my LWC component as well, what all I have created and how I have handled that. So this is my first. I will show you that in the lightning record page, I mean lightning page of this home, which LWC component I have used. So if I just click on this, see this is the weather screen LWC component that is being used, and that is the LWC component that I have opened here. So this contains just one lightning input element which says as enter city name. Placeholder is like just examples that I have given inside the text. You can see example Noida, Hyderabad, Bangalore, everything. And whenever this value changes, I'm calling this method just to store what this method will do. I will just make you go through it in the JavaScript file. So you see handle input change was the method which was called whenever the value is being changed on that lightning input. So what it does is it simply takes the value whatever I have entered on the UI and store that into this variable inside the JavaScript input city name. And this is what we will use to send as a parameter to our Apex class to fetch the details of that city. So whatever input I have provided here, I am just storing that in my JavaScript variable. Now, next thing is we have created one lightning button whose label says as get weather details. As you can clearly see, get weather details. And upon clicking on which this handle weather details method is called. Now, this is what we will use. Basically, this JavaScript method will actually call our Apex class imperatively. So we will have this method handle weather details. Okay, inside this what we are doing is first we have to import our Apex class. You see, import get weather details from Salesforce slash Apex slash, this should be the class name dot method name. If I go back to my apex class, this is my class name, and this is my method name. So I'm first importing it. Now I'm calling this apex class from here, handle weather details, that is upon click of a button. And this apex method is actually expecting one input parameter, that is city name. So if you see, the name of the variable or the input variable is city name. So what value we want to provide over there is exactly that input city name that I have already stored that value as soon as the user entered that on the lightning input. So I'm just providing that input city name as my parameter to my apex method. Now once I call the method, I will store the result somewhere. Okay, now see, I've used the then operator. That means if my apex calling to the apex class was successful, then what I will do is I'll store the result somewhere. Okay, first of all, I'm using this show weather details, a boolean variable basically. So if you see here, I have declared this as a false because I don't want to show the weather details when there is no city name mentioned at all. Once I click on get weather details, at that time only I want to show that all those details. Like I will show you again Hyderabad. Now once I click on this button, then only I want to show these details. That's why I'm using a boolean variable to control that visibility. So if I go to the HTML part, so I've used one LWC if conditions, show weather details. If this is true, then only show all these details. Otherwise, don't show. So that is why upon click of a button, when I call the Apex class and when the result is returned, then I mark this as true so that the table beneath the screen is visible, and I'm storing the result in a variable called weather details. So if you see, I've declared a blank variable here which will store the wrapper class. So whatever data is being returned from this apex class, that is wrapper class, is I'm storing here as weather details. Okay, and then there is a catch method as well. Suppose if by any chance that apex class failed, or the LWC failed to call the apex class, then it will not show the details, temperature details, rather, and show us this error message on the console that some error occurred while fetching weather details. Then just for my understanding purpose, I'm doing this console as well. Whatever weather details I'm storing here is actually properly stored or not. Now I will use this weather details object that have been returned from the apex class in my HTML to show the details. So now let's come to this position. This looks long, but it's very simple. It's just iteration of the same thing again and again. So first I'm checking whether show whether details is true or not. So it should have been marked as true once this apex class call was successful and result was returned. Okay, so this table will be visible. Here I am using lightning layout for each and every information to display. Okay, so under lightning layout I have multiple rows enabled, and each row will contain two elements. Only the first row will have one element only, that is city name. So if you see, I have marked the size of this lightning layout item as 12, so it will capture the entire screen. Then inside that I have the span element, whose text I am just giving a style of title bold. Then I'm putting city colon, and whatever weather details was written from the apex class, I am selecting the city of that weather details to be displayed in front of this. So as you can see, after city, the value whatever I entered here is coming here because it was returned as part of the wrapper class. Then the second lighting input that I am using here is the temperature, and in that I'm using the weather details so these are nothing but the aura enabled wrapper class properties that I've already declared here. City, temperature, pressure, humidity, phase, like all these are wrapper class properties that I'm making use of here. You see, temperature, feels like, pressure, humidity. So since I am using these wrapper classes variables in the LWC component, and that is the reason that all these properties has to be marked as public and annotated with aura enabled. So this, I hope you might be aware of, that any method which needs to be called from LWC should have this annotation aura enabled. And at the same time, if any apex variables or wrapper classes properties needs to be fetched by the LWC component, then those properties should have this get set method applied, and that property will need to be public as well as annotated with aura enabled. Okay, so this is how I'm building this part of the screen where I will show all the details. So these are just hard coded text, but this is something which is coming from the apex class. Okay, so the javascript of this file looks very simple. Just we are storing the name of the city whatever we enter on the screen, then we are storing the weather details whatever have been returned from the apex class, and we are storing the show weather details either true or false, whether to show this part of the screen or not. Okay, so I hope this code looks very simple. Even if you are not, you I will suggest try to code on your own. Take reference from the video, try to code on your own. If there is any issue, then take reference from the source code that I will share with you once you ask for it. So this video is quite long, I believe now. So I hope I've covered everything, and if there is any question, please feel free to comment. And don't forget to ask for the source code by asking it over an email. Okay, thanks for watching. Goodbye.